My body is too small. I can't bear children," whispered the tiny Apache woman. But he held her. From the time she was a young girl, everyone could see that she was different. She was much smaller than other children her age. Her arms were thin, her hands were tiny, and even as she grew older, her height never matched the people around her. In her Apache community, strength was often seen in physical work, in long walks across rough land, in carrying heavy loads, and in standing tall with confidence. Because of her size, many people quietly wondered if she would ever be able to live a full, independent life. But what most people did not see was the strength that lived inside her. Her name was often spoken softly in the community, not because she was weak, but because people did not know how to treat someone who looked so fragile. Some showed pity, others showed doubt. A few even looked at her as if she were a problem that life had created by mistake. She learned early that the world would not always be kind, and that she would have to build her own strength in ways that could not be measured by height or muscle. As a child, she tried very hard to keep up with others. When the other girls ran, she ran too, even if her legs burned and her breath became short. When they helped with daily chores, she lifted what she could, even when it felt too heavy for her small body. Sometimes she failed, sometimes she dropped things. Sometimes she fell behind. Each time she felt eyes on her, watching, judging, whispering. Those moments hurt more than the physical tiredness. At home, her family loved her, but even their love carried quiet worry. Her mother would watch her carefully, always ready to step in if she looked too tired. Her father tried to teach her the same lessons he taught the others, but he often softened his voice with her, as if afraid that too much pressure might break her. She understood their concern, but deep inside she wanted to be seen as capable, not delicate. As she grew into a young woman, her small size became even more noticeable. In gatherings, she often stood near the back, not because she was shy, but because she did not want to block anyone's view or be in the way. People sometimes spoke over her, not realizing she had something important to say. When she did speak, her voice was gentle, but her words were thoughtful. Those who truly listened could hear wisdom, kindness, and quiet courage. She carried great pride in her Apache heritage. She respected the traditions, the stories, and the deep connection to land and family. Even though her body felt small, her sense of belonging was strong. She helped elders when she could, listened carefully to their stories, and learned from their experiences. She believed that her value did not come from how tall she stood, but from how she treated others and how she carried herself with respect. Still, at night, when she was alone, her thoughts became heavy. She would sit quietly, sometimes staring at the dark sky, thinking about her future. She wondered what kind of life waited for someone like her. Would she always be seen as weak? Would anyone ever look at her and see a partner, not a burden? These questions stayed in her mind, growing louder when the world around her became quiet. There were moments when she felt invisible, and moments when she felt too visible, as if everyone could see only her size and nothing else. Neither feeling was comfortable. She wanted to be seen as a full person, with dreams, fears, hopes, and the same desire for love and respect as anyone else. But the world often made her feel like she had to prove herself again and again. Work was not easy for her, but she never stopped trying. She found tasks that suited her strength and skills. She became careful, patient, and detail-oriented. Where others rushed, she moved slowly but steadily. People began to notice that even if she could not lift the heaviest things, she could be trusted to finish what she started. She made fewer mistakes because she paid close attention. In this way, she earned quiet respect, even if it was not always spoken out loud. Even with these small victories, doubt still lived inside her. She compared herself to other women and felt the difference deeply. She saw how easily they moved, how naturally they carried themselves, how confidently they took up space. Sometimes she wished she could borrow even a little of that confidence. She did not want to be taller just to look different. She wanted to be taller so people would stop looking at her like she might break. Her heart was kind, and that kindness sometimes became a weakness. She helped others even when she was tired. She listened to problems even when her own heart felt heavy. She smiled even when she felt like crying. She learned to hide her pain behind gentle words and polite behavior. Many people thought she was always fine, always calm, always strong in a quiet way. They did not see how much effort it took to keep that image alive. Deep inside, one of her biggest fears was about her future as a woman. She did not talk about it openly, but it stayed in her thoughts. She wondered if her small body would limit her in ways she did not yet fully understand. She worried about whether she could have a normal life like others. These thoughts were not easy, and she carried them alone, afraid that speaking them out loud would make them more real. She did not want to be defined by fear, but fear still followed her like a shadow. Some days she felt brave and hopeful. Other days she felt small in more ways than one. On those days, even small comments from others could hurt deeply. A careless joke, a look of surprise, a quiet question asked with too much curiosity. Each moment added another small weight to her heart. Still, she refused to give up on herself. She reminded herself of what she had already survived. She reminded herself that being small did not mean being powerless. She had faced doubt before, and she was still standing. She had felt pain before, and she was still moving forward. These thoughts helped her get through the harder days. In her quiet moments, she dreamed of a life where someone would see her fully. Not just her body, not just her size, but her heart, her loyalty, her strength, and her love. She did not need someone to save her. She wanted someone to stand beside her, to walk with her, and to treat her as an equal. That dream gave her a small light to follow, even when the road felt uncertain. To the outside world, she might have looked fragile, but inside, she carried years of experience, quiet battles, and lessons learned the hard way. Her life had already taught her patience, humility, and deep understanding of others' pain. These qualities made her strong in ways that could not be seen with the eyes. As she moved through her days, she held her head high even when her heart felt heavy. She showed up. She did her best. She treated others with respect, even when she did not always receive the same in return. She believed that one day someone would look at her and see not a small body, but a strong soul. And so, her story continued, shaped by both struggle and hope. Every step she took, no matter how small, was a step forward. Every day she chose to keep going, she proved to herself that her life had meaning, value, and purpose. Even if the world did not always see it, she knew deep inside that she was more than enough. Life continued to move forward for her, even when her heart still carried many quiet questions. Each morning she followed her usual routine, helping where she could, doing her work with care, and trying to keep her thoughts focused on the present instead of the worries of the future. She had learned that if she thought too far ahead, fear would grow stronger. So she stayed busy, believing that steady effort could keep her mind calm. It was during one of these normal days that she noticed him for the first time. He was not loud or demanding attention. He did not walk into a room expecting everyone to look at him. Instead, he moved with a calm confidence, greeting people with respect, listening more than he spoke. There was something about his presence that felt steady, like he knew who he was and did not need to prove it to anyone. At first, their meetings were simple and brief. A greeting. Well, a short conversation. A shared moment of work. Nothing special on the surface, but she noticed small things about him. The way he looked people in the eyes when they spoke. The way he thanked others, even for small help. The way he showed patience, even when things did not go as planned. These small details stayed in her mind longer than she expected. What surprised her most was how he treated her. He did not speak to her in a softer voice because of her size. He did not look past her or talk over her. When she spoke, he listened. When she shared an idea, he considered it seriously. For the first time in a long while, she felt like someone was seeing her as a full person, not as something fragile that needed special handling. At first, this made her uncomfortable. She was so used to being treated differently that being treated normally felt strange. She caught herself wondering if he was just being polite, or if this was how he truly treated everyone. Over time, she realized that this respect was simply part of who he was. He did not change his behavior to make a show of kindness. It was natural for him. Their conversations slowly grew longer. They talked about simple things at first.
Daily work, family stories.
Small memories from childhood. These were safe topics, easy to share. She found herself smiling more during these talks, even laughing in a way that felt lighter than before. The heaviness she often carried seemed to lift, even if only for a short time. He shared stories of his own struggles, not in a dramatic way, but honestly. He spoke about times when he felt unsure of his path, when he doubted his choices, and when he had to learn hard lessons. Hearing this made her feel less alone. She realized that even people who looked strong on the outside carried their own quiet fears and doubts. Slowly, trust began to form between them. It was not rushed. It was not forced. It grew naturally, like a plant that is watered a little each day. She began to feel safe enough to show more of her true self. Not just the calm, polite version that everyone saw, but the thoughtful, sometimes worried, sometimes hopeful person she really was. She noticed that with him, she did not feel the same pressure to hide her tiredness or her doubts. If she was having a hard day, she could say so. If something hurt her feelings, she could talk about it. He did not judge her for these things. He did not tell her to be stronger or to stop feeling the way she felt. He simply listened. This kind of listening was new to her. Most people listened only to reply, to give advice, or to change the subject. He listened to understand. That made a deep difference in her heart. It made her feel valued in a way she had not felt before. For the first time, she felt that her words truly mattered to someone. As their connection grew, she began to feel a quiet happiness she had not expected. It was not loud or dramatic. It was gentle and steady. She would think of him during the day and feel a small sense of comfort. She would look forward to seeing him, even if only for a short time. These feelings both warmed her heart and scared her at the same time. She was afraid to hope too much. Her past had taught her to be careful with her heart. She had learned that expectations could lead to disappointment, so she kept part of herself guarded. She enjoyed the moments they shared, but she did not allow herself to fully believe that something more could grow from them. Still, her heart began to open, little by little. She noticed that he never made her feel small in a bad way. Instead, he made her feel seen. He respected her opinions. He asked her thoughts on things that mattered. He treated her as someone whose voice had weight and meaning. This slowly changed how she saw herself. For years, she had carried an image of herself shaped by how others treated her, fragile, limited, different. But through his eyes, she began to see another version of herself, someone thoughtful, someone strong in quiet ways. someone worth knowing deeply. This new image felt strange, but also healing. They spent more time together when they could. Sometimes they worked side by side in silence, comfortable without needing to fill every moment with words. Other times they talked for a long time, sharing ideas, memories, and small dreams for the future. These moments built a connection that went beyond simple friendship. Even so, there were parts of her she was not ready to share. The deepest fears still stayed hidden in her heart. The worries about her body, the questions about her future, the doubts about whether she could truly be enough for someone else. These thoughts felt too heavy, too personal, too painful to bring into the light. She smiled and laughed, but inside, she wondered what would happen if he knew everything. Would he still look at her the same way? Would he still treat her with the same respect? Or would his view of her change, just like so many others before him? These questions followed her quietly. Some nights she lay awake thinking about their conversations, replaying his kind words in her mind. She wanted to believe in them. She wanted to believe that this connection was real and strong. But fear reminded her to be careful. At the same time, she could not deny how much his presence had already changed her. She felt a little braver, a little more confident, a little more willing to imagine a future that was not shaped only by limits and fear. Even if nothing more came from their connection, she knew that meeting him had already made a difference in her life. She began to stand a little taller, even if her height did not change. She spoke with a little more confidence. She trusted her own thoughts a little more. These were small changes, but they mattered. They showed that her heart was healing in quiet ways. Deep down, she knew that a moment would come when she would have to decide how much of herself to share. She could not hide forever. If this connection was to grow, honesty would be necessary. That thought both scared her and gave her hope. For now, she stayed in the present. She valued each shared moment, each conversation, each quiet smile. She allowed herself to feel the warmth of connection, even while fear whispered in the background. She did not know what the future would bring. But for the first time in a long time, she felt that she was not walking her path completely alone, and that simple truth made her heart feel a little lighter, even as she carried the weight of unspoken fears. As time passed, the closeness between them became deeper and more meaningful. What started as simple conversations slowly turned into something that touched her heart in a way she had not felt before. She trusted him more with each passing day, and with that trust came a growing feeling that she could no longer keep all of her fears hidden. The closer they became, the heavier her secrets felt. There were moments when she almost spoke, when the words rose to her lips, but then fear pushed them back down. She would look at his face, see the calm and kindness there, and worry about what might change if he knew everything. She had learned from life that people often reacted differently once they saw her struggles clearly. Sometimes their kindness turned into pity. Sometimes their respect turned into careful distance. She was afraid of that change more than anything. One evening, after a long day, they found themselves sitting together in a quiet place, away from the noise of others. The air was calm, and the silence between them felt comfortable, not heavy. It was one of those moments where the world seemed to slow down, giving space for thoughts and feelings to rise to the surface. She felt her heart beating faster. She knew that if she did not speak now, she might never find the courage again. Her hands felt cold, and her thoughts felt tangled. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. He noticed her change in mood and gently asked if something was wrong. For a moment, she almost said no. It would have been easier to smile and change the subject, but something inside her told her that honesty was the only way forward. If this connection truly mattered, it needed truth, not silence. She looked down, gathering her strength, and then slowly lifted her eyes to meet his. Her voice was soft when she began to speak. She told him that there were things about her that she had never shared with many people. She explained that her life had always been shaped by how others saw her body. She talked about how being small had affected not just her daily life, but also how she saw herself as a woman and as a person with hopes for the future. As she spoke, her words came slowly, like each sentence carried weight. She told him about the way people had treated her differently, about how she had learned to be strong in quiet ways because she had no other choice, about how she often felt that she had to prove her worth again and again, even when she was tired of proving anything at all. He listened without interrupting. His face showed no shock, no judgment, only deep attention. This made it a little easier for her to continue. Encouraged by his calm presence, she moved closer to the hardest part of her truth. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke about her deepest fear. She told him that she worried about what her small body might mean for her future. She shared that she had spent many nights wondering if her body would limit her in ways that could affect her dreams of a normal family life. These were thoughts she had carried alone for a long time. Speaking these fears out loud made them feel more real, and that scared her. Her voice became quieter, and her eyes filled with emotion she had tried to hold back for years. She did not want to appear weak in front of him, but she could no longer hide how much these thoughts had hurt her. She told him that she sometimes felt broken in ways people could not see, that even on days when she smiled and laughed, part of her heart felt heavy with worry, that she feared being seen as less than whole, less than enough, because of things she could not change about her body. In that silence, her mind filled with fear. She wondered what he was thinking. She wondered if his view of her was changing in that very moment. She braced herself for distance, for awkwardness, for words that might be kind but create a wall between them. She felt exposed, as if she had opened a door to a room she usually kept locked. It was one of the most vulnerable moments of her life. For a few seconds, it felt like time had stopped. All she could hear was her own breathing and the quiet beating of her heart. Inside, she prepared herself for disappointment. Life had taught her that people often pulled back when things became too real. She told herself not to expect too much. Even if he reacted kindly, she feared that something between them might still change. But even as fear filled her, another feeling was there too, a small sense of relief. For the first time, she was not carrying these fears completely alone. She had finally shared the weight with someone else. That alone felt like a small victory, even if the outcome was uncertain. She looked at him again, searching his face for any sign of rejection or discomfort. She wanted to read his thoughts, but all she saw was a quiet seriousness. He was clearly taking her words in, thinking carefully before responding. That waiting felt longer than any moment she could remember. In her mind, memories of past reactions played over and over. People who had tried to change the subject, people who had given empty comfort, people who had slowly stepped away after learning too much. She feared becoming a problem that was too heavy for someone else to carry. She whispered that she understood if this was too much, that she would not blame him if he needed space. Even as she said these words, her heart hurt at the thought of losing what they had built together. She did not want to lose him, but she also did not want to trap him in a situation he did not choose. Her honesty had cost her a lot of emotional energy. She felt tired, not in her body, but in her heart. It was the kind of tiredness that comes from carrying something heavy for a long time and finally setting it down. She waited for his response, holding her breath in a way she did not even realize. In that moment, everything felt uncertain. Her future, their connection, her hope for being fully accepted, all of it seemed to hang in the balance. No matter what he would say next, she knew that this moment had changed her. She had faced one of her greatest fears, being truly seen. She had chosen honesty over silence. Even if it hurt, she knew that she had been brave. In that quiet space between them, her heart stood open, unprotected, waiting. The next words would shape what came after. And though she was afraid, she also felt a small, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, she would not be alone with her fears anymore. After she finished speaking, the silence between them felt deep and heavy, but not in a bad way. It was the kind of silence that comes when something important has been shared, when words are no longer enough, and feelings take their place. He did not rush to speak. Instead, he stayed still, giving her space, showing through his calm presence that he was truly listening and thinking. She watched his face closely, trying to understand what he felt. Every second felt longer than the last. Her heart was full of fear, but also a quiet hope that he would not turn away. She had opened her heart completely, and now she felt exposed, like someone standing in the open with no shelter. Finally he spoke, and his voice was gentle. He told her that he was grateful she trusted him enough to share something so personal. He said he knew it must not have been easy to carry those fears alone for so long. His words were not dramatic, but they were honest, and they carried a warmth that made her shoulders relax just a little. He told her that when he looked at her, he did not see a list of limits. He saw a person who had survived many quiet battles. He saw strength in the way she kept going, even when life made things harder for her. He told her that her courage, her kindness, and her honesty meant more to him than anything about her physical body. As he spoke, tears quietly filled her eyes, not because she was sad, but because she felt something she had not felt in a long time: deep relief. For once, someone was not trying to fix her or change her. He was accepting her as she was, without conditions. He told her that everyone carried fears about the future. Some fears were about work, some were about family, some were about health. He said that having fears did not make her weak, it made her human. He reminded her that no one's life followed a perfect path, and that no one was promised an easy road. She listened carefully, feeling his words sink into her heart. She had spent so many years believing that her struggles made her different in a bad way. Hearing him speak made her realize that struggle was something everyone shared, even if it looked different for each person. He told her that her worth was not tied to what her body could or could not do. He said her value came from who she was, the way she treated others, the way she faced life, and the way she kept her heart open, even after being hurt. These words touched something deep inside her. She had waited her whole life to hear something like this. Not empty comfort, not shallow kindness, but real understanding, real acceptance. It felt like a heavy door inside her heart was slowly opening, letting in light she had been afraid to believe in. He did not speak as someone trying to be a hero. He spoke as someone choosing to stand beside her. He told her that if they were to walk forward together, they would face the future as a team, with honesty and patience. He said that no one could control everything that life would bring, but they could choose how to face it, together or alone. When he said the word together, her heart felt a strong emotion she could not fully describe. It was a mix of hope, fear, and deep gratitude. For so long she had imagined facing her worries by herself. The idea that someone might truly want to share that path with her felt both beautiful and scary. She told him she was afraid of becoming a burden, that she did not want to be someone's problem. He shook his head gently and told her that caring for someone did not make them a burden. He said real connection meant sharing both strength and weakness. It meant sometimes leaning on each other when one person felt tired. These words slowly changed how she saw herself. She had always tried to be strong alone. She had learned to hide her needs. Now, for the first time, she felt permission to be human, to need support, to allow someone else to care. He told her that he respected her even more for being honest, that it took real strength to speak about fears instead of hiding them. He said many people spent their lives pretending to be fine, even when they were hurting inside. He admired her courage to be real. As he spoke, she felt a warmth spread through her chest. The tight knot of fear she had carried for so long began to loosen. It did not disappear completely, but it no longer felt as heavy. She felt seen, heard, and accepted in a way that changed something deep inside her. She realized that his support was not just about words. It was about the way he stayed present, the way he did not rush her, the way he made space for her feelings without trying to control them. This kind of support felt safe, steady, and real. For a long time, she had believed that love meant having to be perfect or easy. Now she was learning that real care meant being accepted, even with fears and doubts. This understanding made her heart feel both soft and strong at the same time. She shared that part of her still felt scared to believe in good things, that life had taught her to expect disappointment. He told her that fear was understandable, but that she did not have to let fear make all her decisions. He encouraged her to allow herself to hope, even if hope felt risky. They sat together quietly for a while after that. The silence this time felt different. It was no longer heavy. It was peaceful. It was filled with a sense of connection that did not need many words. She felt calmer than she had in a long time. Inside her, something important had shifted. She no longer felt completely alone with her worries. Even if the future was still uncertain, she now knew that someone saw her and accepted her. That knowledge gave her a new kind of strength. She thought about how much she had carried by herself for so many years, how tired her heart had been, how much she had hidden. In this moment, she allowed herself to rest emotionally, just for a little while, just enough to breathe more freely. He told her that no matter what challenges came, they could face them with honesty and respect, that they could learn together, grow together, and support each other through whatever life brought. These words did not promise a perfect future, but they promised something better, a shared future. As she listened, she felt a deep gratitude, not because her fears were suddenly gone, but because she was no longer facing them in silence. She felt stronger knowing that someone cared enough to stay, to listen, and to understand. In that moment, she realized that healing did not always come from fixing problems. Sometimes healing came from being accepted exactly as you are, from being held emotionally. Even when the world had taught you to protect yourself, her heart still carried questions. Her future was still unknown, but something important had changed. She now believed that she was worthy of love, respect, and partnership, not despite her struggles, but as a whole person, including them. And in that quiet space with his calm support beside her, she felt a new kind of courage growing inside. A courage not built on pretending to be strong alone, but on allowing someone else to stand with her, honestly, and without judgment. After that important conversation, life did not suddenly become perfect, but it began to feel different in quiet, meaningful ways. The fears she carried were still there, but they no longer felt as heavy as before. Knowing that someone truly understood her and accepted her changed how she looked at herself and her future. She began to wake up with a slightly lighter heart. Her days still had challenges, but now she felt supported, even when he was not physically beside her. Just knowing that someone believed in her made her feel stronger. She noticed that she smiled more easily, and that her thoughts were not always filled with worry. They continued to spend time together, but their connection now felt deeper. There was more honesty in their conversations. She did not feel the same need to hide her fears or pretend everything was fine. When something worried her, she could talk about it. When she felt unsure, she could say so. He listened with the same patience and respect as before. He also shared more of his own thoughts and struggles. This made their bond feel balanced. It was no longer just her opening up. They were both learning to be real with each other. This mutual honesty helped them build trust that felt strong and steady. Together, they began to talk about what kind of life they wanted to build, not in a detailed or rushed way, but in simple, hopeful conversations. They talked about values, about what mattered most to them, and about the kind of home and environment they wanted to be part of. These talks were not about pressure. They were about understanding each other better. She began to think differently about the idea of family and fulfillment. For a long time, her thoughts had been shaped by fear and doubt. Now, she started to see that family could mean many things. It could mean deep connection, shared responsibility, and emotional support. It did not have to fit one narrow idea to be meaningful. This new way of thinking helped her release some of the pressure she had placed on herself. She realized that her worth was not tied to meeting one specific expectation. She was valuable simply because she was who she was. This understanding slowly brought peace to parts of her heart that had been restless for years. She also noticed changes in how she carried herself in the world. She spoke with more confidence. She trusted her own thoughts more. She no longer apologized for taking up space. Even though her body was small, her presence felt stronger. People began to notice this change in her, even if they could not explain exactly what was different. At times, fear still returned. Old doubts did not disappear overnight. There were moments when she worried again about the future and what it might bring. But now, when those thoughts came, she did not face them alone. She had someone she could talk to. Someone who would remind her of her strength and her worth. He encouraged her to follow her interests and dreams, even the small ones. He reminded her that her life was not meant to be limited by what others expected of her. This support helped her explore parts of herself she had kept quiet for a long time. She began to imagine possibilities that once felt too far away. She also learned to be kinder to herself. For years, she had judged her own body and her own limits harshly. Now she practiced seeing herself with the same compassion she showed others. This was not easy, but it was healing. Each time she chose kindness toward herself, she felt a little more whole. Their relationship was not based on pretending everything was easy. It was based on patience, understanding, and shared effort. They respected each other's pace. They allowed space for growth. They accepted that life would bring both good days and hard days. Through all of this, she came to understand something important. Strength did not always look like carrying everything alone. Sometimes, strength looked like allowing support. It looked like asking for help. It looked like trusting someone else with your fears and hopes. She also realized that her story was bigger than her worries. Her life included culture, family, friendships, work, and personal growth. She was more than one fear. She was more than one doubt. She was a full person with many layers. and she deserved a life filled with meaning and connection. As time went on, she felt a deeper sense of peace with herself, not because all questions were answered, but because she no longer felt broken. She felt human. And being human meant having limits, hopes, fears, and the ability to grow. She looked at her past with new eyes. The years of struggle had taught her empathy. The moments of pain had taught her patience. The times she felt small had taught her how to see and care for others who felt unseen. These lessons became sources of strength instead of shame. She and he continued to walk forward together, one step at a time. They did not rush. They did not make promises they could not keep. They focused on being present, on treating each other with respect, and on building trust through everyday actions. In quiet moments, she sometimes thought about how far she had come emotionally, from a place of deep self-doubt to a place of growing self-acceptance. This journey was not easy, but it was real. And it was hers. She began to believe that her life could be full, meaningful, and rich, even if it did not look exactly like she once imagined. She understood that fulfillment came from connection, purpose, and self-respect. These things were within her reach. The future was still unknown, but it no longer felt scary in the same way. It felt open. It felt like a space where new possibilities could grow. She felt ready to face it with honesty, courage, and hope. Most importantly, she no longer saw herself as someone defined by limits. She saw herself as someone defined by heart, resilience, and the ability to love and be loved. This change in how she saw herself was one of the greatest victories of her life. As she moved forward, she carried a quiet confidence inside her, a confidence built not on pretending to be someone else, but on accepting herself fully. She knew that she deserved respect, care, and happiness, just like anyone else. And in that understanding, her story reached a place of calm strength. Not an ending, but a new beginning. A beginning shaped by honesty, connection, and the belief that even a life marked by struggle could also be filled with deep meaning and quiet joy.